Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Flourishing Conversations here. We are here in, both of us are here in Georgia, just different parts of Georgia and everything. But I am Nicole Doyle. I am the community engagement concierge. I like to say, because I'm from Georgia. I borrow concierge because of Chick-fil-A. How may I be of service to you in the homeschool community? And today we are going to be talking with Amber O'Neal Johnston about her new book, Soul School. And so it's so funny. So my husband was like, I know this woman, but I don't know this woman. He was like, because I guess I've talked about you a little much so and everything, but I'm just gonna let Amber introduce herself. But I will say this one thing about Amber. I have loved the fact she said that she is the heritage mom, one of the OGs who's still doing a blog. Thank you. We appreciate a good blog. Everything doesn't have to be a TikTok video, even though I'm very proud of that TikTok video. That's at the beginning. One of my kids helped me make it. But yeah, we appreciate a good blog. She's Charlotte Mason with an afro. I was like, that if that is not the AKA this, putting your own spin and flavor on it, I don't know what is. But yeah, welcome to the Flourishing Conversations. We're gonna bring in Amber.
Welcome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. As she said, I'm Amber O'Neal Johnston. I live outside of Atlanta on the other side of the city from Nicole, and I am married to Scott. We're both from the Midwest, but we met here in Atlanta in Midtown at the High Museum of Art. And we have 4 kiddos. 2 are teenagers. The girls are the oldest ones. They're 15 and 13, and the boys are 11 and 9. All 4 have been homeschooled from the very beginning. And I am an author, a speaker, as she said, blogger for life. I love the search functionality to be able, that people could easily find years worth of content and help on that website. And I'm the author of my newest book, which is Soul School. And I also run a nonprofit to help support homeschoolers, particularly Black homeschoolers in our area.
Oh yeah, we're so excited to have you here. It was like when we started the Flourish. Well, really, it was just we were like, okay, so we're going to get together and do a little conference workshop thing. I remember there were names that were being bounced around as people to reach out to. And so we were like, we're going to call her and see, because at the time it was just kind of like, how some people feel like they're in a separate sphere and you're looking over there. And then everyone's like, oh no, we know Amber. She, we go to the Cobb County thing. I was like, oh, okay. And just in that, and then also because I had your first book, be able to read through everything. We appreciate you being in the community and really just helping us in so many ways with a different conversation that I think is missing from homeschooling, definitely missing from Christian homeschooling, this conversation and everything. I too end up traveling to a lot of Christian homeschool conferences. And, I am from the homeschool perspective as a mom, just as children are looking for themselves in books. Sometimes I'm looking for myself on the stage. Yeah. So I appreciate you and what you bring to that space. So this is my first ever book interview, and it's really making me feel like a big girl, like a journalist.
I love it.
Because I was like, I had to read and I had to pay attention and I had to make notes, and I treated it just like any homeschool mama. It became a project. So I want to jump in first of all, and I want to go to the title.
Okay.
So let's talk about the title. And that's a simple question, but Soul School, can you give us a little bit about why you chose that title?
Well, first of all, I wanted something where no one would have to guess what I was talking about. Part of my message has been, which, it's turned some people off, a few that are uncomfortable with it, but most people have welcomed it. I'm Heritage Mom, and the book is about Soul School. It's Black books by Black authors with pictures by Black illustrators, and I just wanted it to be unashamed of that, and it's missing from the marketplace. So it's not like this is already being done a lot of places, and I wanted something that people could immediately understand. The idea, the play on the word soul, it has two meanings. One, the books that I discuss, like Black children's literature, is good for the soul. It's good for my children's souls, for me as the mother, for teachers, for non-Black families. These books are just that good. But also those books are full of soul, you know? And I thought, well, we have soul food and soul sisters and brothers, we used to say back in the day, and even Soul Train and soul music. And it's those things are synonymous with Black American culture. So why not Soul School? Because that's how I consider my homeschool. It's a soul school.
Yeah, I really thought that when I got this book, I thought it was going to be a another one of those curriculum books where people just list a long list, and you know they may have time frames. So these are the books that you use when you're looking at, you know, the Renaissance period, or this is the books you're doing for this particular period. What is that, Truth Quest? They kind of just give you a long list of books, but this was not that, in the sense of I appreciated that it was in two parts. And so the two parts, you had part one of the book, which I think is what, 5 chapters?
5 chapters.
And then the second part of the book, which is actually not just a book list, but it's more like an annotated bibliography. That's like the best way I could describe it, which was the bane of my existence in college. But I was like, oh, this is annotated bibliography. But the first part, you explain the direction that you decided to go. And so with those 5 chapters, you did something very interesting when you were defining Black for each one. So can you talk more about that?
So at the beginning of each of those first 5 chapters, I just start, again, a lot of this book, this was a book, it's a service to the community. It's also cathartic for me, like the things that I never get to hear that I want to be able to say out loud to our children and to other adults. And so chapter 1 starts out, Black is beautiful. Like, yes. It's great to say that. It's okay to say that. It is beautiful. And so each chapter begins in a similar way with this just statement of truth and fact. Chapter 2, Black is nuanced. Okay, and so then I go into the topic for that chapter and why I say that and what's nuanced about it specifically so people can understand. So I won't read all of them, but each chapter, there's a chapter that says Black is creative, and one that says Black is resilient. And these are the kind of overarching ideas that I want children to walk away from when they're reading books. And I'm so happy that you said that this isn't like traditional curriculum. That's not what this book is. It really is saying, if you want your kids to know Black American culture, from toddlers all the way through teens, you can pop in at any time, take it all the way through. If you want them to experience the joy and the pain and the pride and the laughter and the tears and everything about our culture, you can do that one book at a time. And here, let me show you how. Not from a schoolish academic perspective, though a lot of these books could be used in that way, but mostly for like that life-giving aspect of the wholeness of a person and what they would want to take away from their literature.
I think a lot of times when we think about Black, you know, we know the 1970, 60 phrase Black is beautiful, but then when you broke it down, you went through, it is the music, it's the performing arts, it's hair, skin, the Black church. Now that was because it is different. People don't realize that. You go to another church. I literally, kid you not, I went to a data club competition where they had performing arts, and all these children were doing different things. They were doing jazz, lyrical, and everything. And there was one Black girl who got up and did traditional church praise dance, the over dramatic, the big gestures and everything. And people in the audience were like, what is she doing? I was like, I was like, this baby is doing traditional EMC Black Church praise dancing at the Beta Club conference in Savannah and everything. And it just warmed my heart because I'm watching her just bring something very unique to the stage. So when you talked about Black is Beautiful, and you just kind of like went down through the things, even down to communication, language, and those type of things. I appreciated the more the description in each section, because then it actually made me think, because as a parent, that part about Black is Beautiful, I do always say this, that homeschooling will make you put a mirror to how you feel about yourself.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So, yeah. So I felt like when you kind of went through, it kind of made me examine, what do I feel about myself?
Yeah. And it's hard in the homeschool world. One of the things I struggled with that was kind of the genesis of Heritage Mom was this idea that the best resources were never Black. And I couldn't understand why. And when I would try to bring up ideas, and people would be like, oh, well, I mean, that art isn't really, like high art, the best of the best. And well, those poets aren't really, the classic poets. And those books, I mean, they're fun reads that you can read on the weekend. I always have kids read them on the weekends, but I don't know. And this is not mocking a certain person. I was like that because I was like, well, I need to make sure my kids get the best of the best, and I don't want to like lower their academic standards in order to do this. And I look back at that now, and the voices that were in my head, and I'm just like, what was I thinking? And so this is a reframing of that. No, the art is real art, and it's high art. It's quality. It's worthy of study. The poetry is lyrical music on paper. It's absolutely worthy of study. And the novels and the nonfiction and the stories, and like you said, it's a mirror, your homeschool life. And until I truly accepted that inside of me and embraced it, there was no way for me to communicate that to my children. So Soul School is a fun but serious look at Black children's literature as to be something worthy of study and contemplation, and not just an extra to stick on to the side of the real things.
It's interesting when you were talking about the new in chapter 2, because you're saying it's not something extra, but I love, like in chapter 2, we talked about nuance, because I didn't think about the nuance of our relationship. But something that kind of came up to me when I was looking at this is that the nuance in relationship, we say you had extended kinship. I have found that my homeschool moms in the co-op are, they are my not biological sisters. they are aunties, to my kids. And I'm reading through this and actually seeing some parallels to a close-knit neighborhood, in the same way as when you have a homeschool cooperative or a micro school or any kind of community that is coming together. I was pulling bits and pieces away and applying them constantly to things that are going on like now in my life. So I enjoyed the first part. So I'm gonna try to move on because we're only in chapter 2, and I was like, and I was like, really.
So I have experienced the same thing in my tight knit homeschooling community, and I saw that example come to life when my oldest daughter and I were beefing, and it's embarrassing we were talking about, but it was about clothing, like what I wanted her to wear and what she wanted to wear to a particular event. So we came into the event hot with each other. And as soon as she walked in the room, she walked right over to one of the other moms in the group and started telling her everything. Like, she was basically telling on me, but it was so beautiful to me because she felt like I wasn't listening and that I couldn't hear her. And so she went to the first safe adult that she could find, that wasn't me, to plead her case and ask for help. And my friend came over to mediate. And at first I was like, oh, no, she didn't. But, she's like, hey, I just want you to hear her out. And she mediated the conversation, and we walked away with the understanding. And I thought to myself, first of all, this girl went and told on me. But then I thought, how beautiful is it to have community and have aunties that are friends, that she feels like when she isn't being heard by her mom, that she has other women to go to and to turn to with her feelings and thoughts. So I agree.
Yeah, and it's even more beautiful on the end because like I like to say to you, welcome to the high school community. So homeschooling these middle school babies before it's about to, you said you have a ninth grader. Yeah, it's getting different. So with that getting different,
Yes.
yeah, so it's good to have people in your life to be able to have, so the children can have someone to talk to, because it's so interesting. Even with my own son, he's 23 and he's a college senior, and actually one of the homeschool moms, he is at Kennesaw State. He's his college, he's his student assistant.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, I know, full circle moment. And so to have someone, a wonderful Christian man that he can, talk about some things and be a soundboard to with, and it's come this far, like, it is a wonderful place to be in. And you feel really held by your community because they get your basic values, even though we may not agree on that skirt, they get my basic values with her.
Yeah. It was true. It was so true.
I love chapter 3 where you also talk more about the resilience of our community, and you really broke it down into ways that I didn't really think about. And you went from all the way from African kingdoms to, Black Panther, Black Matters, Black Lives Matter movement this far. And when I was reading through this, I also thought about the fact that sometimes when we are tackling these types of places, emotions come up when parents are teaching them where the first word they think about is not resilience. And so can you speak more about some of the things that we're going through that you were thinking about when you were really like laying it out? Because you gave there's several sections that are really good in here.
Yeah. So I'm kind of letting parents know or adults know these are the things that I'm looking for in young people's literature when it comes to history. Soul School is not just a history book, it's about Black American culture. So it's got funny stuff in it. It's got mysteries and fantasy and Afrofuturism and historical fiction and nonfiction, but it also has its history. And I'm not looking for just civil rights and enslavement, though I am including those. I'm looking to see what Black people were doing during the entire existence. So starting in Africa and moving forward through all the major swaths of history in American history. So that, yes, that includes enslavement and the Civil War, but also Reconstruction, those years after the Civil War, and what was happening during the Great Depression and during the World Wars and the Harlem Renaissance. I mean, it's like a couple paragraphs in a lot of books that homeschoolers are using. And I'm here to say that's a couple years worth of study, minimal. And moving forward from there and like, what is it that we want our kids to take out of those time periods that Black people were here and we were doing things, we were having experiences. And the reason why I like the word resilient, a lot of times when we talk about Black history, I've heard so many people say, well, I don't really do that with my kids that much because it's sad or it's traumatic or it's depressing. And there are some hard parts. But when you only tell a little part of the story, if you just tell the hardest, most traumatic parts and then walk away and go eat lunch, sure, that's not going to hit well. But if you explain the entire journey, what your kids will take away from it is this idea of you can do this and you can do that, but at the end of the day, there are some things you can't take from a person in terms of their humanity. And even when you're able to take them all the way to the brink, their next generation comes up and shows out, and the generation after that comes up and shows out. So it's kind of that idea, like we are our ancestors' greatest dreams, that saying that we've heard. I wanted that to come across in here. So some people might see it as tragedy. I see it as examples, repeated examples over hundreds of years of resilience. And I think when you think of it that way, you think of it differently. It feels like something you have no choice but to share. As a source of power and strength, not a source of shame or sadness.
Yeah, it isn't. Like when you were when you said a source of power, I think it's like when you in your next section, I felt like it was powerful that you were talking about. And what was the last one? I think it was creative. So the next time you talked about creative, and I'm thinking about that, felt like to me like we were recapturing our power, because all the stories that I read, I mean, even though they're Black characters and there are parts of them, it doesn't have to be a Black story, so to speak. And
Yeah.
so you really talked about that. Like there are genres that we just want to see representation of how, you know, someone may walk through that space. I remember my son, there was one book called Dread Nation. And I want to say it's an Afrofuturism. It was like a dystopian novel. I think the zombies come, but only the slaves are the ones who are able to survive the zombie attack. Yeah. Really good book, y'all. Like if you want a teenager to get hooked, like wait a minute. But
excellent reviews,
yeah. So it's like I love the fact you talked about many. So because I think some of us, even as adults, I may like to watch a Netflix series, but I just would love to see a love story just for the sake of seeing.
I know, that's so true. You know, I thank my oldest teen daughter for that, because she was like, Mom, I really want to read some like romance novels. Like she's like, historical fiction's great. We've read a lot of it. She's like, but I want to read about some teens right now today, you know, that like meet up at Target on the weekends and go to the movies and the conflicts that they have. And, you know, at first that was a little scary for me, because there are contemporary books have contemporary issues in them. And they're not always worked out with a bow on it, a bow around it. Like it might be a book from the 1800s, because now we know what happened and it's all a happy story. So I was like, I don't know, let me see. And I started digging in. I was like, that is a good book, girl. Like I love the examples of these teens who were kind to one another and we're caring and we're getting to know each other through shared experiences and everything like that. So yeah, the idea that romance is a part of our story, and mystery and fantasy, and you know, to your point, it's like if it's a little kid's book and it's about a little boy and his puppy and he goes fishing with his grandpa, it doesn't have to be about like this Afrocentric Black boy and his African natured dog went fishing with the Black dad who has a long, you know, ancestral history. I mean, that's fine, but it's like, can the boy just and his dog just go fish with the grandpa? And I just want them to be Black. And I don't just want the pictures to be Black, but I want there to be head nods, you know, maybe what he calls his grandpa or what they went to eat afterwards. Sure, I want it to be culturally embedded, but I don't want you to just overtly talk about it. And it's the same way I feel sometimes about, you know, my Christian resources. A lot of times when I'm looking for things for my kids, if it's like math, I don't need it to say like, well, you know, there were 3 barrels of wine from the wedding, and then Jesus added 6 more barrels of wine from the wedding to make 9 barrels. It's like, dude, like, it's okay. It doesn't have to be that overt, but I just want to know it's more the spirit of it, not the specificity of the wording. And so I think there's a time and place for everything with literature, and it's okay to have overt teaching in some books, but also sometimes kids just want to fall in love with the story. Without it having to be stamped as a Black story.
I think that's why some of us, and in this particular age range, love Jason's Lyric, the movie.
Yes.
Love and Basketball.
Taking me back. Yes.
Love and Basketball. I think about Jason's Lyric. I think about Love and Basketball. I think about Love Jones, because all of these were stories where they were just having relationship issues and they were just trying to get through. At the end, they just happen to be Black. So there's nothing wrong with a good love story.
Yes. No, I think, oh my gosh, you just took me back so bad. But like, yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think that you've really captured the essence of what I feel my work is and what I tried to capture in Soul School. And this idea that we don't have to separate. It's almost like, you know, in homeschool, I've really appreciated not having to separate the secular from the sacred, but that all of it can be sacred, right? Like it all can be from him. And so I love this idea of our children's literary lives not having to be separated into subjects all the time. So there can be history next to poetry, next to Afrofuturism, next to a mystery, next to a romance, and all of it together wraps up to kind of give a broader, more expansive picture of who we are as a people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's also good how with every chapter you paired a that chapter with going back to the book list. That's
Yep.
The annotated book summary, so that people get an idea of like, this is what I'm talking about, but let me show you more in depth what it is. And I like how you had the substitution for Pride and Prejudice, that we can have classical
Absolutely.
literature with hot sauce on it, and it'll still come out just as nicely with
Yeah.
children learning from all the literary genres.
Yeah.
So
There's
I
I
just wanted to talk a little bit more about, because
oh, go
hmm?
ahead. I
No,
was gonna say
oh,
there's
yeah.
also a Little Women remix in there as well. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's great points.
Yeah, because and then at the beginning of every chapter there are beautiful quotes. What is one of your favorite quotes that's at the beginning of one of the chapters?
Oh my goodness. Well, I put it right first. It's the first book in section 2, and this is a book for young children. But it says, there was a boy named Emil who fell in love with a field. It was wide and blue, and if you could have seen it, so would have you. And the reason I opened with that is because our relationship with the land and with God's creation, with the natural world, that was an important part for me to bring through a lot of the books, because there's this assumption that Black people don't like being outside, and that's not true. But the way that we like to interact with outside a lot may look different. So sometimes we like to do different things outside, but I right away I tell people, so the cookout, that's outside. So if you're saying we don't tend to be in rural wilderness areas as often, then I would agree with you, and we could break down the reasons why. And there's a book in here that talks about that a little bit more for the older kids. I think it's for the older kids. And I wanted to have books where the children had this like natural wonder about the world around them. And Emil is a little boy, and he just falls in love with this field. And in the book, you can see the field changing through the seasons. And he loves the field so much that he gets jealous when other people come to play in it. And his dad has to remind him that one of the most beautiful things about the field is that it doesn't belong to anyone, not even him. And so that's one of my favorite quotes, and an example of a really sweet story. And people could argue, to our last point, well, what's Black about that? Well, what's Black about it is Emil. And what else is Black about it is there are a lot of little Black children who love being outdoors, who want to play in creeks, who want to go and do fun things outside, and that we have to stop um, sharing this idea that that's something that we don't do. Um, that's not true.
I think as a homeschooler, we live outside like sometimes. And, I didn't lament at the time the pandemic when it first started, because I was like, oh, we're going to be outside a lot more,
Yeah.
and not always in this car, and everything. Speaking of outside, your homeschool co-op, you do something to really engage with outside that is very, very cool. You have an annual camp out, right?
Yeah, that's true. And it's grown so much over the years. And I remember the first time I was like, hey guys, we're all going to go camping. They were like, where are the cabins? I was like, no, in a tent. We're going to go camping in tents outside. And everybody was like, pass. No, we're not. No, I'm not. And I just had to like go on this PR campaign and try to talk people in it. I ended up having to bring in friends from other places to come and fill out the group. And then after that, it was so amazing, the experience, that we ended up like selling out every year and needing to get change places and getting more and more campsites. So yeah, every year we go camping outside in tents with our kids. It's like a huge block party. And the one word that I would use to describe it is freedom. For most of our children, it's the first time and only time they ever have where they can just wander. It's like a big, huge thing. All the tents are all part of the people that came with us. Go play, go ride your bike, scooters. The kids are playing, the teens are playing spades. Parents are laughing. Music is pumping. Food's on the grill. And it's for like 3 days completely outside. It's life changing. I think everyone should do it. It's amazing.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. My homeschool call, we do something similar, but yeah, I can convince these people to go. all the way outside. So we end up at Jekyll Island 4-H camp.
Yeah.
And so so we ended up we were there. We go during spring break. So we kind of match it up with the spring break of the public schools. Yep. Because we know that public school teachers are not going to use their spring break, take kids down there. So you can have well, maybe I shouldn't tell the secret. That's how you have the place to yourself. That's how you have
my secrets. Best time to go to the Georgia Aquarium field trip is the Monday after Thanksgiving, because no schools are going to take a field trip that day. We had the entire aquarium to ourselves. So they're a little happy.
All right. So Monday after Thanksgiving. I'm pretty sure the first day of school probably was a good one too. We were like, oh, it's the first day of school over here. Yep, we're gonna go ahead and do that. But Amber, I have one of the other things that I have like really enjoyed in my homeschooling space is the ability to always go, oh, I've learned something new. And so I have to truly say, with this book, I have really learned a lot of things that's new. And I feel a little bad, half mine are grown. No, we passed half of mine are grown. 3/4 of mine are adults. I have 2 in college, Kennesaw Morehouse, one who is a high school senior. So I feel like I'm at and then I have a middle schooler and everything, but it's like I'm looking at this going, oh, wow, we could have approached it like that. And we could have approached it like this. But I'm pretty sure some of the other moms are looking at this who are newer to this and they're going, oh, this looks like a lot. What would you say to those moms as to how they can take this literature and treat it like lovely pieces of cake?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good analogy. So I would say that you should look at this as not something that you have to do, but something that you get to do. And only you can decide where it fits in your life. Some recommendations, it can be first thing in the morning. My family, we're eating breakfast, we do Bible, sing a hymn, I do a read aloud. It's always been like that since the beginning. So you can do it there. You can slip it in as a bedtime reading, and that's a way of bonding with kids. You can have a family book club where you guys read it separately. You can do Pages and Popcorn where you guys read the book and then watch the movie afterwards. So there's so many different things you can do as a family or individually. You can assign these books or you can just let the kids flip through and choose them. But I think it's really important that you don't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do this, but rather, wow, look what I get to do with my kids. And I think just that attitude shift will help relieve any of the anxiety or stress, because it's really just reading great books. Like I'm reading before you and laying a path of saying, y'all want to read some good Black books? Here's where it's at, And so, yeah, it's a joyful experience.
When I'm looking at all of this that you put together, I'm that homeschooling mom that's like, you ever thought about going back to college to be Dr. Amber? Because I swear I was reading this going, this looks like a really good chunk of a dissertation.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no. I've thought about that so many times. Maybe when my kids, I have my spread is a little wider, so I still have that fresh just turned 9-year-old who's like, Mom, I want pancakes, so it's hard to expand my mind beyond what I'm doing today. But yeah, maybe someday. I am very passionate about it. I did want to mention too that the book comes out next week on the 28th of January. Anybody who pre-orders by January 27th and fills out the form on my website that you shared, they will receive Crafted. And that is a Black History Month guide. It takes you through 4 weeks of things to watch, read, do, make, create, listen to. You can choose among those things or do all of them if you want, for younger children, older children, and adults. And I created it from scratch. It's completely free to those who pre-order by the 27th. And Crafted is based on this year's Black History theme for our nation, which is African Americans and labor. So I've done all the labor for you ahead of time so that you can spend the month of February or beyond studying that aspect of our history.
And that's cool. Super cool. So we do have her book. Like I said, it's for pre-order right now, and you can get it. at a variety of places. Yes, go ahead, girl, model the book. Well, just let's model the book. So you can get it at a variety of places, of course. And you go to her website, heritagemom.com/soul school to be able to get it. I thought it was really cute. Also, when you go to her website, you will see these bookmarks that are I love these bookmarks and everything. You gave me a new aspiration. I want a bookmark in my silhouette too. So
Do it,
like,
girl.
yeah, I was like, I kind of want a bookmark in my silhouette. I kind of like it, but I have your old book. I have your other bookmark in my book. I have this one.
From a Place to Belong.
A Place to Belong. And it's
So
a very nice bookmark. It has a tassel, yeah. So yeah, last year when we had the homeschooling conference, Amber was so gracious to help us be able to provide to attendees her book and these wonderful bookmarks. And she gave an amazing talk. It's so interesting. Some of the people from the church who are working the AV department didn't know anything about homeschooling, and they watched your that keynote, and they were just sitting there like, oh my God, I did. And then they were so struck also by the imagery of the wall of dolls and everything. People who work in AV, they appreciate that type of presentation, and they just thought it was really, really cool.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. I enjoyed it so much. That was one thing you said in the beginning, like you were so happy to know that I was, willing to come speak at Flourish. But girl, those are all the wrong descriptors. I was so blessed by that experience. It felt like coming home. It felt like I could let my hair down and shake out the fro and just, be me and just share from my heart without measured words. And it felt like I was speaking to family, and I've never had that experience. As much as I've spoken across the nation and really the world, I've never had that experience. So I think it was the most beautiful exchange. I was so happy to be there, and I got so much from it. And I cannot wait until I am there again. I've been thinking about it all year. My kids are begging me to come because, hello, Jamie Grace. They've grown up on her music. So I hope to see a lot of people there.
And so this year we have Amber on a keynote panel. And with this panel, we're really going to dive into and have a great conversation. So this panel we're having is about cultural restoration, the integration of heritage and healing in the homeschool journey. And let me remove that banner of the bottom. And so we will have Dr. Sherfield Smith, Amber O'Neal Johnston, Anita Gibson, myself will be moderating. But the wonderful thing about this conversation is that we have it at 3 stages. We have it from academia's point of view. We're having it in what she's seeing in research with Dr. Cheryl at University of Georgia. We have it from Anita's point of view because Anita's babies are in their 30s and she homeschooled them. And then we have it from your point of view of being in this space where the resources are so much more readily available, because Anita talked about the work she had to do back then to get what she needed for her children. And so we are just grateful to have all 3 of you to be there at the conference and really get into this more, because I am very interested in, and I felt like this for myself. I feel like I've had healing because I've had to pull away from the world, concentrate on my children, because I have often said sometimes I feel like I have had moments where I am mothering children through a phase where I was not necessarily mothered in that way. And so I'm having to be like, girl, you're a mess.
That's real. That's real though. And I'm glad you're saying that, because that's the truth, right? And I think it's so important for other moms who are watching us to know, like, I think sometimes you can look at other people and be like, oh my gosh, they have it all together. They know everything about homeschooling. Their homeschools are perfect. They have it down pat or whatever. And it's so important to like constantly let people know that no, we're still in it with you, learning alongside our children, just like you are. We're never done.
Yeah, and in that space, I recognize because one thing I do love is a good survey. So I always tell everybody who attends the conference, when I give you a survey, answer the survey. The survey will show up on the stage. It's not an accident that we do certain things, because we actually had moms who talked about that space. And this goes to that part you were talking about, I guess, in chapter 2 with nuance, that they felt like they didn't have certain relationships that they needed for their mental health in that way. And so we do have Natalie Mack from HSLDA. Well, she's going to be with National Homeschool Advocacy, other organization. And she'll be talking about homeschooling as far as like parents and their mental health. But I wanted to dive more into in this space when we're having this conversation on the stage about what are some of the places that we are seeing with our newer moms are needing encouragement to be in community. We are a social media, cell phone place group. And so I'm watching even adults have some issues with being able to communicate and be community in that way, because things are just different. It's just different. And so I appreciate everything that was in this book, because I sat down and I think people in this household are like, can we stop talking about the book? Can we stop? Because I'm like, oh, you know what? That reminds me of.
Took you on a memory train.
It did. And I thought, and something else that I thought was really cool. Well, it was just interesting. So we have a book launch group that gets together and they go through the book. I have not been able to get on any of the lives, but what I've been doing is going back and doing it with the videos. And so I appreciated this last one when you kind of spoke to the fact that we are in a space politically where we are having like a nation that's feeling like, oh, we do not want to see your diversity, hear about your diversity. Honey, I will sue you about your diversity. Mm-hmm. So when you kind of talked about that in that space, because we had a whole bunch of coincidences happen on Monday. So at the same time and everything, but God knows all things, that nothing's a coincidence. But so I just appreciate that in the just being able to read through that and was like, you know what, I've been having some thoughts too in the same way. So just keep writing. That's all I'm gonna say, girl. Just keep writing. I appreciate. I like to just read through people's thoughts and go, because I think Channing Austin, she has a blog. I'm a Substack fool at times.
I'm just into Substack. I'm actually running, my book launch team is being run on Substack. So it's private right now, so people can't see it, but I'm warming up. I'm like, okay, I see how Substack works. So just you wait. It's coming.
Yes, it's coming. So once again, I just want to make sure that everybody takes a moment. Please go ahead and get your soul school. As you can see, I went to school and I enjoyed it. So I'm going to need you to go ahead and get Soul School and also come out to the Flourish Family Homeschool Conference. We will have Miss Amber O'Neal Johnston will be there, and we are excited to have her in the space. You heard what she said. She said it felt like coming home. Somebody once said they feel like Flourish is a cross between a church revival, HBCU reunion, and the cookout. And I was like, all in an educational conference. I was like, hey, I kind of like that. I need to figure out how to put that into marketing. But how we gonna market it? But we're excited to have her again this year. And please just come on out. If you want to register, you can go to our website at flourishhomeschoolevents.org. And if you type in when you go to get tickets and you type in the word podcast, you get 35% off. So only those who are like, you've been listening to the podcast, I'll be like, that's why I tell people, they'll say, hey, can I get a discount ticket? I say, can you go listen to a podcast? And the answer will show itself to you. I was like, so
Love
go
it.
ahead and do that. Once again, we wanted to say thank you to you, but go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say thank you, and I look forward to the conference and to seeing so many people there. And I appreciate the work that you're doing. Next time, we're going to have to come back on here, and we're going to trade mics. I'm going to need to interview you on your own podcast, so that we can hear more about what you're doing in this community and for this community and for me as a mom. So thank you.
Oh, no problem. I tell people all the time that um I'm just the person who's like, look at me, because I have middle child syndrome. So I'm always out front. But I must say, there is a team of women behind me who have done everything. I can't shout them out enough, from creating PR to telling me, doing research and saying, I think you need to avoid this topic. You need to go in this direction. You need to, because I can be a little transparent, and I'll be like, yeah, we're not gonna, pull it back. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. Amazing women. And I can't say enough about, I'm just the face that people see, but there are many who show up. I mean, Flourish has over 40 plus volunteers.
Oh, I remember that last year. I was like, I mean, before I could even finish sentences of things that I needed or were, something I was looking for, it was done. And I was like, wait, where'd she come from? I'm like, I don't want to be a bother, but there were so many people trying to make sure that everyone, and it seemed like no matter what their role was, they were also being a host or hostess. And I mean, I can't say enough. So I've seen the team and their commitment and just the level of service, like having a service oriented heart toward people that were there. It was beautiful. So can't wait to do it again. And
I've been blessed. I've been blessed with really good folk, and even family members who have shown up and been of support and everything. But thank y'all again for coming to Flourishing Conversations. If you would like to be on a podcast because you have something very interesting that you're trying to do, hey, reach out to me. I'm not going to say my cell phone number, but it's over all of the media stuff. So you just look, you will find me. I am not hard to contact. Once again, thank you, Amber. We appreciate you. Y'all need to get this book now. It's a really good book. I'm telling you, it's a good read for me. I like a good read and everything. And also spend some time on her Heritage Mom blog. Like she says, you can go back and search years about conversations that she was having with other moms, things that she was tackling in her household. That is just, it's very impactful, and it's there for us all to be able to view. And so once again, I want to say thank you.